Hey team, welcome to another Too Many Projects. I don't show you much about the house. Me and Clara are one of those sort of social media renovation couples, except without a social media account because we don't have time because we're doing a renovation all the time. And it's taking up a lot of my sort of projects time at the moment. You catch me right now just having done a bit of ventilation on a whole house heat recovery system, which is quite exciting, that I haven't taken any footage of, so I apologise for that. But one thing I have been waiting to do a video on is our heat pump, which has been installed by Octopus. I thought a lot of people would be really interested in that. I'm trying to tidy up, but I keep having to go off frame to put things away, so I'm just going to shuffle them round and round like I'm tidying up. We actually had it installed several months ago, and the whole saga's been going on for a year administratively, but last couple of weeks it's got a bit cold, so I thought I'd do a video now. I'll tell you what happened, tell you how we started, give you an impression of sort of what it cost, and hopefully, now that it's getting a bit cold out, an impression of whether it works or not. So yeah, let me see what footage I can find and see if I can piece together a little story of what's brought us to this point, and then show you what we've built. So let me give you the backstory really fast, just in case it's helpful. Let me try and keep it concise. We moved in about 18 months ago. This house had a functional but very old boiler, a system with a water tank and two header tanks, one cold water, one heating loop. It's probably installed in the late 90s. It was still working, but it was at the end of its functioning life, really. Immediately we did want a heat pump. I won't get bogged down in the reason whys, but we did want a heat pump, and we got a few quotes in for some very reputable independent installers. And considering there was a £5,000 grant from the government available at that time, we were still looking at about 9 to 15 grand on those quotes, very wide ranging. And we were just like, we can't, that's too much money. So it was a bit disappointing not to be able to afford that. And we got a quote in from a really, really good installer for a like top of the range combi boiler conversion, a Weissman that was the best that was available at that moment, and he reckoned it would be about six and a half grand to install that. That's not a normal boiler change price, that's quite high, but there was a lot of ancillary work to change. We still couldn't afford it at the time, but we thought, well, that's probably where we're going to have to go, and we just sort of decided we'd nurse the current boiler through a couple more winters and see how we got on. We got started on loads of other projects, and I just pessimistically filled in a form when Octopus started doing their heat pump installations. Tell us about your house and we'll tell you what sort of price we can do on a heat pump. So I filled it in expecting it to come back at another, 10 grand bill. It came out more like £5,700, something like that, which seems like a lot of money still, but it's quite close to the work we have to do anyway. And they promised to replace as many radiators as need replacing, and they promised with that really basic form as the price they were going to do. It's pretty exciting. And then the bus grant went up. That's the government grant for getting rid of gas heating. Went from £5,000 to £7.5 grand. So we got a £2.5 grand discount right then and there, which is fantastic. I think the final offer was £2,700. Is that what I said? £2,200. It was less money than a boiler. It was better than a boiler was going to be, and that really felt like Octopus coming in and trying to change the industry, because if only people who have 15 grand in their back pocket to replace their boiler can have a heat pump, it's not going to make that much difference in the world. So we're really happy for that and sent them a deposit straight away, bit the hand off. Let me show you what I mean about our house. I've got an idea for a little 3D rendering of where the house was, what the layout is, and what we've had to do to get it to a point where a heat pump's going to work. People always say you have to have so much insulation put in place in order for a heat pump to do its thing. And that's true to an extent, but our house is very... Let me show you a bit. So this is what our house looked like when we moved in. Front door, very standard layout, okay, 2 large reception rooms, dining room, living room, and a kitchen at the back. That's the downstairs. Similar upstairs, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. This is the living room. Kitchen, look, that's a hob oven. Brilliant. Big radiator on the front window. pretty similar size radiator, a bit smaller in the dining room, radiator in the hallway, tiny radiator in the kitchen. Before Octopus got involved, we managed to take this wall out, took this wall out as well, sort of open plan living area here. And in the process, I got rid of this little radiator in their dining room. We got rid of that radiator on that wall, and we put in a little tall radiator there, 1.8 meters by 30 centimeters, and a tall radiator here. We also happened to have replaced these with some fancy column versions, and we actually managed to carve out, as a result of this is very not to scale, a little downstairs toilet there. Let's tell you a bit about the construction of the house and the system that's in place here at this point. We have walls which are 2 bricks thick, solid walls, no cavity, no external insulation, no internal insulation. We do have good windows, a mixture, but all double or triple glazed windows. And we do have loft insulation. A lot of the work that had been done on the insulation was a bit shoddy, so we actually meticulously went through, took out all the insulation and refilled it where necessary, and actually we've got about 300 now. Double glazing, loft insulation, that was actually all Octopus required. Our old system had 15mm pipework throughout the heating loop. When I redid these radiators and these radiators, I took the time to put in 22mm pipework. So we were rocking 22mm pipework down this main spine of the thing, and 15mm out to the radiators. So this ended up being what it was like when they came to have a look at it. And here's what they said we needed to do. They said these 2 radiators in the front, which we'd put in like column radiators, which for their size, they don't have nearly as good an output as your sort of bog standard white Type 21, Type 22, Type 33 type. And we wanted to keep that because they looked stylish and cool. And they said these 2 that I'd put in would be okay, as long as we put another one in this room. They said these were definitely not good enough. And after much discussion about it and me showing figures to their team, they were very, very kind to really, considering they're doing this to a price, you know, they really want to, they have to stick to their own formula to make money. They allowed me to, before the installation started, replace these with even bigger radiators, 2.1 meters tall by like 50 centimeters wide, and another one there, which justified this one being small. All right, so I said if I installed these before they arrived, they said that would be enough. They didn't like the fact that there was no radiator in the kitchen area. There was enough output here, but it wasn't necessarily going to fill this area with heat. And so they asked us to put a plinth heater in here. I don't think we're going to need it, but we'll see. Just to be clear, they didn't pay for these because I wanted fancy column ones, but they would have paid for them if we were prepared to accept not fancy, you know, plain white radiators. And so that was a little bit of a luxury. Upstairs, just FYI, I don't want to build a Lego model. Sorry, I don't want to build a 3D rendering of that, but basically the boiler was in a cupboard upstairs above the front door and the water tank. And so we worked out that the heat pump, here it is, the heat pump itself would be out here. They said they could take pipework all the way from here up to the water tank up here and put the new water tank up there where the boiler was. But that's just, it's just insane to take hot water all that distance and then back again to here anyway. And so I worked out, this is the garage, right? These black bits are the garage attached to the side of the house. This is the bit where you've seen me working a lot in the past. And I worked out that because of this little kick out and because of the garage wall, I'm just going to have to steal some bits. I asked them if they wouldn't mind if I built a little cupboard here, insulated cupboard for the water tank and everything. And they said yes, which is really, really cool. I told them what it would look like. I told them to tell me their requirements and I would match it. And that would mean basically that we could have pipework going just a metre or so between the two. We have the hot water tank really close to the, this is a downstairs toilet, to this sink, and to the bathroom upstairs. And so I went ahead and started building up. So, I mean, I'm telling you about our story here, but which I don't know why you'd be interested in that particularly, except if it relates to you. And so what I want to kind of share is that they've promised to install this in a house that has not got wall insulation at all, but which does have a certain level of infrastructure with the double glazing and the loft insulation. It is a very standard layout, but with some changes. You know, we're not just using that original kind of dining room, living room, kitchen layout. We've got a bit of a more modern open plan layout here, and they flexed in their system and they helped us out. And we've got a boiler in what I would argue is a stupid place. And they've been more than happy to allow us to do, you know, we've had to pay for and complete a couple of little bits of work before they arrived, but they've been able to be flexible to help with that. So it took them a bit over a week to install it, but I got some footage and stuff, so let me show you what that experience was like, what happened. It was in May, so we didn't need any other heating, and we have an electric shower, so to be honest, some of the stuff that's going to really make life difficult for people during a heating installation wasn't a problem for us. But let me show you what I've got for that. So, heat pump day is tomorrow. So right now our boiler is up there with a hot water cylinder. It's an unvented system with 2 water tanks, so you've got your cold water storage tank here and the header tank over there. What we've done is I've built some stuff to make this possible. So the outdoor unit is going to go here. There's a Daikin unit with a Hydrodox built in on the side. So I don't understand this fully, but I believe that means that the heating loop will come straight out the side of the machine here. It's going to go into this box I've built, and during the survey it was decided that this box I was going to build was going to be big enough. Tape measures were used, slimline tanks were discussed, and so I got building it. But at the 11th hour they told me that it actually wasn't big enough. So I think we're going to end up with the buff tank on this side of the wall, which is currently a very useful place to hang bicycles, but it is what it is. I think that's everything. And then that is right next to the kitchen sink, so you'll get hot water there, and it's a very short distance to the bathroom, which is just above there. Should be better, right? So indoors, this is our downstairs toilet. It doesn't exist yet, and that is the heating loop coming down the stairs and heading off to the downstairs radiators. And then behind me here, this wall is the external wall that leads directly into that new cupboard. The cold main is actually passing, which one is it? It's right on top. It's that horrible copper pipe there, tiny. Obviously the cold main will now go into the kitchen and off this way to the hot water cylinder. So a lot of action is going to go on in this room, and I've prepared it by clearing it out, because this is where we've been storing all the, as you can see, storing all the DIY materials and tools lately. So the last thing we've had to do is install some new radiators. But we had just installed some fancy column radiators which we wanted to keep, and we negotiated to replace them with these, which are the largest off-the-shelf column radiators output wise I could find available anywhere, and it is nearly 11 at night, and the guy's coming at 7:30 tomorrow morning, so we'll find out what he thinks of my preparations. But the main thing that's happened today is there is no gas meter anymore, there's no boiler anymore, there's no water tank anymore, but we've got brand new radiator, brand new radiator, brand new radiator behind all that stuff. So yeah, not much to report, mostly stuff taken out. There was going to be a ton to show today on the end of day 2, but unfortunately the lead engineer got pulled away for a family matter halfway through the day. But that on the right there is a new electric box. This is called the MMI, which is an interface to control the machine, which is really cool. So I've hidden it away under the stairs with with the fuse board and everything, because we don't need to see that every day, but that's pretty cool. Neatly put in, thank you Octopus. We've got a new radiator here that was ready to go up, and they've done a really nice job. It's very neat, under a lot of scrutiny from me all the time. We've got a room stat, which is going to manage the temperature inside here. So our leading engineer reckons, and I'm going to be very impressed, that he's going to get the water tank and the buffer tank and the expansion vessel all in here. The water tank and the expansion vessel are just next door here at the moment. We shall see. But yeah, I'm afraid day 2, not as much exciting progress as I was hoping for. Nonetheless, coming along swimmingly. Okay, end of day 4. I skipped day 3. A lot did happen, but I had some stuff to do in the evening, so I didn't get a chance. There was a 5-day install as planned, and they're going to definitely hit that. They were actually hoping to get done today, but this is, with the cupboard outside on the other side of that wall, this is all the new pipework that links into the both the heating loop with those 2 big push-fit connectors, and then we've got cold main going out to the water cylinder and hot supply coming back in and then going upstairs. So that's all been finished and hasn't quite been tested yet. We've got a new radiator in there. This room is a long way off finish for us, but though I've had them fit it temporarily where it will be once we put an actual wall there. It's looking good. Nothing new under here, I don't think. That's all as it was yesterday. And then we've had to put the fire on to keep warm. Got some happy cats. They're happy because the fire's on. The unit is now where the unit goes. It's huge and it's right in the way, but it's okay. We're going to get over it. I'm just a bit sad it comes out much further than I thought, and it does rather block the door to the garage. That's going to be fine. This is all ready to go now. So as predicted, he's got the expansion vessel in underneath, which is a neat solution considering the very limited space. It means we get to keep the bikes stored here. I don't have to just put pipes through the wall and get more in there. My friend Henry, who was looking at this, made notes and said, you should get them to put a piece of cardboard over the end here because they always knock it. He works in the industry and he gets really annoyed at it, and I didn't, and now they've knocked it. So those are heat exchanging fins, so they're quite important, and all the air has to pass through them. You get a lot of air passing through them. When you get less air passing through them, it's less efficient. I'm just working on a sort of 3D printed afro comb, which I'm hoping to be able to draw through those fins and just straighten some of them out. And lastly today, wiring is all finished off, and we've actually got, sneaking up there, a little black cable that's quite hard to see on video, going all the way along the garage here. That's the weather sensor. So that's going to be testing the temperature outside and making decisions about flow temperature in the heating system, which is really, really good. Yeah, I couldn't find the footage from the last day of the installation. There was a weekend and they came back and fixed some bits, so it all got sort of lost in the wash. But now we're up to date. It's been several months since the installation, and I wanted to sort of get back to you and show you the finished product after several months and after a little bit of a cold spell. It's been down to -3 the last couple of weeks. Here in London, I mean, it's been much colder up north. It's about as cold as it gets here. And this is the sort of resulting installation. This is the heat pump. It's running right now. I don't know how well you can hear it, but it's not very loud. Certainly can't hear it in the house. And this is the box I built on the side. Built a bit of an extra shed to store the barbecue and that sort of thing in there now on the entrance of the garage here. But let me get this opened up and I'll show you all of this connection here and what it looks like. To make this cupboard a bit easier to construct and keep it well insulated, I bolt it shut. All right, so that's the unit. It's a big old thing, and it's big for two reasons. One, we haven't got much insulation, so we've got quite a powerful unit to counteract the amount of heat we lose in this house. And secondly, quite often when you see a heat pump, this side piece, which they call the hydro box, is something that you can either keep with the unit outdoors here, or you can take it off indoors, and it can maybe go in place of where your old combi was or whatever. Then it's connected into the cupboard there, and the cupboard here is a timber construction. There's some nicer quality PIR at the top there, but mostly it's 50mm of polystyrene insulation in there. I'm just so pleased with how they managed to fit this in here. It's really, really neat. It is more equipment than I was expecting with the buffer tank. This is actually just a little monitoring tool. I wanted to make sure that this cupboard wasn't going anywhere close to below freezing with all the water in pipes in here. And it's been absolutely way off. Just the heat that's being lost from these lagged pipes is enough to keep this cupboard very, very warm. Down underneath here you can see all of the pipes leading into the house and the expansion vessel. It's all really neat. I'm so pleased. This is quite a big thing, but in our particular situation it's no bother. So here's what those extra radiators we paid for look like. I think they look really cool. They are a bit monolithic. They're much bigger than the amount of radiators we would have needed without a heat pump. But an open plan living space does actually, I've noticed, leave a lot less options. A lot less walls means a lot less options for places to put radiators, which is quite frustrating. So that's the toilet under the stairs we were in on during the installation process. And we're still working on this area, but we have got our MMI under here and the ventilation controller, everything, which is nice. And our room stat in here, which gives you a little bit of a clue as to how lovely and warm it is in our house. And then this is the sort of style of radiator that we've got upstairs everywhere, just sort of bog standard Type 22s. They do these in a tall format as well if you are having the same problem of not enough walls to get the amount of output you need with the radiators. All right, and it's cold out, so let's just finish off in here quickly. I can't tell you how happy we are with the installation and the way it works. In summary, they did a really good job installing it, dealt with a load of problems on the fly, and what we've got as a result is fantastic. I'll do a few little stats here before we finish, but just in summary, the house is warm, it doesn't cost very much to run, the people who installed it were really good. The price was fantastic. I think we ended up paying, so if I add up it was $2,700 for the machine. We actually got a little bit of a cashback deal from Daikin, and then we paid about £900 for the extra radiators. So somewhere in the region of £3,500 is what we paid for the whole installation, which is absolutely fantastic. I can't promise you that you will pay that price with Octopus now. I feel like they're doing a bit too good a deal to try and get people in on it, but if they can, that's really good. I will just mention that I will put our Octopus referral code for heat pump installations down in the description. I'd really appreciate it if you get a heat pump with them off this recommendation. You let them know that we referred you and give them that code. But just in case you're interested, let's quickly go through some stats. First of all, some caveats. This is a 2.5 bedroom house with 3 adults living in it. All right, first of all, if we'd have upgraded to a new gas boiler, we would have seen a lot of efficiency improvements that way as well. We're comparing this to a non-condensing old cast iron boiler installed a fairly long time ago when it comes to, you know, the development of boilers. If we have no gas in the house, we haven't got a gas hob, so there's no gas standing charge to pay. And we're on a heat pump specific tariff that Octopus offer, where we pay over the odds for electricity between 4 and 7 p.m. and we pay the normal price right up until 11 p.m. And we pay the normal price during most of the day from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. But we actually get slightly better than normal price between 1 and 4 p.m, between 11 and midnight, and between 4 and 7 a.m. These are the off-peak moments in the grid, and they're trying to encourage us to voluntarily move our electricity consumption out of the peak times into these off-peak times to balance the grid. So we actually are able to make a bit of a money saving there as well, which is helpful. Just approaching some comments that might come up as well, you'll have seen that the living room was sitting at 22.5 degrees C downstairs, and it's 3 degrees outside today, something I mentioned. We do not run our house at 22.5 degrees C. I can see some people being off, but we do run our house quite warm. We do like to be warm inside the house. The reason it's so hot today is because this is between 1 and 4 p.m. when I was filming the video there. I was running the cleaning cycle on the oven and it pumps out a whole load of heat. So we've actually basically just got a big heater going on that was pushing it a bit higher. We actually run the thermostat at about 20 degrees during the day and we let it come up to 21 in the evenings when we want to be cozy, and it sets back to 18 degrees overnight when we're asleep. And the other thing we do is, because of this little cheaper time between 1 and 4 p.m, is we tend to smash the temperature as high as possible. Not as high as actually possible, but we knock it up, sometimes knock it up to 22 degrees at 1 p.m, and try to store that heat in the house so that we can turn it right back down and not use any electricity on the heating between 4 and 7 p.m, which is inefficient, but from a financial point of view actually saves us money. Well, last caveat, I have got a SCOP calculation, the calculation of efficiency of the boiler. That is how many kilowatts of heat it outputs for every kilowatt of electricity it uses over usually a whole year, but I've only got 7 months of data, so we're going to be, that SCOP calculation isn't exactly right, but it's where it is now, and it's probably not going to get any worse, I don't reckon, when you look at it over the whole year. So I think it's pretty fair. And finally, I am going to include January. It's not quite the end of January yet, but I'm just going to predict the last week based on the first 3 weeks of January. So let me tell you about what we've used. The machine measures its own electricity usage and its own heat output. I haven't got any external sensors, and there may be some inaccuracy there, but I think over the course of the year it gives us what we want to know. And I'm looking at my spreadsheet on the computer here, and our SCOP is 3.5, which is good. It's not fantastic, but I think the kind of house we're living in, the temperature we do have to run the radiators at when it's very cold outside, I'm very happy with that. That's really, really good. I won't tell you how many kilowatt hours of energy we've used less, because gas heating and electric heating are not really comparable in that way. It's not a good measure. But I can tell you the bills from June right up until January now, where we are here, our bills are, in money, 34% less. It's not fair to say that that's a figure you can expect from a heat pump. There's a lot of kind of fine points. For example, you're not comparing this to your old boiler necessarily. Our old boiler was particularly inefficient, and if we'd gone to a gas boiler that was modern and condensing, we would have seen probably a pretty significant efficiency improvement right there, and that would have resulted in the money coming down. So I reckon the best we could have got out of a gas boiler is 9%. It was 78, maybe 10% more efficiency out of a modern boiler compared to our old one. And so you can consider that, but that's still a hell of a lot less money overall, and that's a massive success as far as I'm concerned. I have got a bunch more data and graphs and things. I've been rocking these little things for measuring temperature and humidity, but they're not really for testing any efficiency or anything like that. It just helps me understand the real life picture in each individual room when the heating comes on. Obviously the radiators are balanced, but this is just a way of monitoring it every 15 minutes to see how quickly certain rooms in the house heat up, or more likely how quickly rooms in the house don't heat up. If there's anything you're interested in, let me know. But overall, this is a massive flipping success. A third less bills, quoted efficiency levels, all for a price that was pretty decent. So yeah, man, heat pumps, brilliant. Octopus, brilliant. That's the summary, just from our own experience as customers. Love it. If you have any questions, maybe there's some more detail I can add in another video or something, but please do use the referral code if you do go with Octopus. That would be fantastic. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.